And we're live.
Hey, we made it happen.
So, hey guys. Sorry about we had a little bit of technical difficulties, but we're here. And we are ready to discuss this book.
Y'all. The only thing I haven't read is the acknowledgments, and I already feel like she gonna make me cry with those because she tell us where the story come from. Woo, woo, y'all.
Oh yeah. I read the whole origin of like how she thought of the story, and I'm like, I would have never thought of that.
I'm excited to get to that part. But oh my gosh. Okay. It's your channel. I don't know how you want to start and whatnot. I'm gonna just
So, hey everyone. I'm Vina, and welcome to our discussion of Daughters of Jubilation. I'm here with my lovely co-host Shay, aka Shay with the Hobbies.
Hi y'all. I'm Cache, channel Shay with the Hobbies. I be writing, I be reading, I be creating. I haven't been doing a lot of that, but I'm proud to say this is the first physical book I have finished all of 2023. And I ain't even gonna hold y'all. This was worth being the only book I finished for the quarter. I ain't gonna hold y'all. Yo, I didn't buy this book, but I want to go buy this book just to give her some more money because why don't she have an audio book? Because it
Exactly.
deserves it.
I bought
It
this book 3
deserves it.
times. I bought this
It
book 3
deserves
times
it.
because I bought it for you and I bought it for 2 other people. I'm like, I am buying this book because we got to get this out here. I did talk to her the other day. I
Okay.
mentioned we were doing like our read along, and she thanked us for supporting her book. And I asked her about the audiobook, and it was kind of like what we thought. Her publisher just like wasn't really supporting this story.
Mm-hmm.
And they were having trouble like shopping around the audiobook to, like somebody like recorded books or something like that because Simon and Schuster didn't want to do the audio.
Wow. Wow. And because it's traditionally published, it's not something she could just do on her own.
Right.
We learn new things every day
Because I
that
was like,
solidify the fact that we're going to be an indie author is the truth. Because why?
yeah, I was like, oh, I mean, I noticed from the beginning they weren't really supporting the book, so that wasn't like a shock to me.
Right,
But it's
right.
just like, even if they didn't like support the book, like the audio, just to give it accessibility.
The accessibility of it, and the truth is, they don't want it to be accessible. And you know why they
Yeah,
don't want it to be accessible? Because
because
you cannot be an 8.5 by 11 person and pat yourself on the back after reading this. It's
you
not
cannot.
gonna happen. You're not gonna feel good at all. And we know that anything that makes them feel discomfort, they don't like. And for me, I'm here for it.
There was not a
I
good white person
in
in
the
this
book,
story
not a
at all.
near one. Nobody. Nobody. Mind you, it was
At all.
only 4 of them in the whole book, but
Yeah.
like nobody. Nobody. And I didn't give 2 flying nothings. Oh well.
You know,
Oh well. This wasn't the story that you wanted to see. Cool.
they were not
Y'all,
ready for
the
the truth
way
that this was
she
serving.
told this story.
Yes, I was in awe. Like, and this was a reread for me, but there was just so much I forgot about. So
Yeah.
going back into it and seeing like those little things she spoiled along the way, and the things I forgot about, I was just in awe of the writing the entire time.
There were so many different things that I saw or like I predicted. There was one thing that I predicted, but I wasn't right about. I was right about it being like somebody related to her, but not in like the same way. And then
Hmm.
once she said who she was, I was like, I already know what this is. Da, 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 da. And so I was like, oh, she gonna wait till the last page and let us find it. Okay, that's cool. That's a good way to end it. I'm fine with that. That was cute. Here's the thing. The honestly the worst or the most uncomfortable moments for me were literally the teenage love scenes. Literally was the most uncomfortable for me because again, I feel like I'm an adult. I don't need to be thinking about kids doing this. Outside of that, like, and I didn't think it didn't make sense for the story or for the character or for what was going on. Like, I truly got it. I just personally, it's part of the reason why I stopped watching Pretty Little Liars, and it made me feel weird in general as a person. But other than that, yo, when I tell you I was bawling by like the last few chapters, and I like was shaking. Like I was like, oh my God, my God, my heart. Like,
I was
y'all.
shaking too, and I knew what was coming. I just didn't remember which chapter, like, certain stuff was coming in, so I'm just like, "It's coming. It's on its way. What's going on?"
Like I knew I was like, well, because like you not only does like the author do a good job of like giving, I feel like the author does a really good job about warning the reader through warning Evelyn. Like the way that in which like I knew something bad was gonna happen because it was like something bad gonna happen. I was like preparing for it, and I was like, there is a art to that. There is an art to that because you definitely gave me a reveal, but I didn't feel like you were spoiling the story for me.
Yeah, she didn't beat you over the head with it, like,
No,
she
not at
didn't tell
all.
you there were even, like, certain something that was at the end that was foreshadowed throughout the story. I did not even realize the first time I read it, she foreshadowed it multiple times throughout the story. Like,
Yeah.
I just had completely missed it, and so when I was rereading it, I was picking up on it, I'm like, "But she didn't beat you over the head with, like, this was gonna happen."
Right, right. It is just all so, and I say effortlessly because that's how it appears, but I know
Mm.
as a writer that it was not. And as somebody who does not want a traditional publish, but we've seen what traditional I know whatever that manuscript was before it got to that was even better. Like I know they were like, you're gonna have to ruin this in just a little bit. Just a little. All right. You sure? You sure? And I am thankful for the creative control she was allowed to keep over it because
Ye
it is still
yes.
a phenomenal story.
That's what I was thinking too. I'm like, since they didn't really believe in the book, did how like more controlling were they over it compared to some of the books that
Some of
they
the other books, right,
like believed would sell more?
right, right. Because and again, we don't know how accurate
Yeah,
this is, the publishing, because that other book that we do not like
yeah,
didn't even touch on it. But even in that book, there was like the conversation of like, I don't really want to edit this book because I don't think it's gonna do a good job, so I'm gonna let this other person edit it, and if it becomes a big hit, okay, but if it don't, I don't care because I didn't waste my time. And like that, like I could totally see that being what happened. Like, you know how like,
mhm,
we don't expect to do that, let's push it on over and let somebody else
yeah,
handle it. And it'd be like, nah, this book did something. It disrupts it. For me, it disrupts this really passive contemporary fantasy like concept.
mhm,
Like in the contemporary fantasies that I've read, one, there is none that is bold face attacking racism in this way.
right. Not at
Bold
all.
face attacking it, not pacifying it, not making exceptions for it, not some white people in it, not anything. It's like, nope, we're hitting it head on. We're not sugarcoating and making nobody feel like this pill ain't hard to swallow because it is. And that alone
There was
is
not
a
a good
feat.
white friend in sight.
No.
It's
Matter,
okay to
was
have your
there a
white
white
friends, but
friend
there
at
was
all?
no
There
white
was,
friends
first off,
at
there
all.
was no white friend. Let's start there.
Which is
Let's
probably why I
start
didn't get the
there.
audiobook. There was no white
Right.
friend to
There
relate
was
to.
no white friend. There wasn't at all. And for me, like, that's totally fine because you
Yeah.
got books with plenty of white people that don't have no friends of color and nobody bats an eyelash.
And the thing is, like, I'm reading a historical fantasy right now that does have that has like good white side friends, and it was in a much earlier time period than this.
I just think people like to sit in their like fantasy disillusions about before. Like, it's like when somebody was like, well, you don't know how they felt about the slave masters and the children they had with them. Are you kidding me? Well, we don't know that they didn't love them. Are you kidding me?
I also didn't feel like there was like a ton of like glaring things that didn't like were ahistorical, which I've read a few historical fantasies where I felt like that. I'm like sitting there, or even like just like a regular historical book I've
Mm-hmm.
read, and I'm like, but I don't feel like this happened during that time period, or I don't feel like they spoke like that, or something like
Right.
that. That
No,
didn't that didn't happen here.
the
I didn't
use
have
of
to
language in this
believe.
book, everything.
Yeah.
Everything. The way that it is very much how we phonetically speak and not what the proper word would be. And it's like,
Yeah.
I'm not changing it. Like, I'm for it. Right?
Yeah.
Like gonna and wanna and da 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 and kinda. Like, those are all things that we do and we say and just are natural to us that we don't even think about it. We know what the actual word is. But to see it written in such a way that, like, I want you to read this how we say it. I don't want you to read it what you
Yeah.
think we should be saying, but I want you to read it how we are in this moment, in this time when we are with each other, especially. And again, I loved it because there's
Yeah.
clearly a difference when she talks to white people versus when she talks to her friends versus when she talks to her mama and grandma. It is not all the same. And the way in which we we don't really get that diversity.
Yeah. Yeah, like I've read books too where they tried to make like their own style like version of AAVE, and it didn't, like, some words it just looked like they were misspelled, like it
Right.
wasn't done correctly.
That
So
part.
this is like one book I'm like, yes, the language was used perfectly. And shout out to her for being a screenwriter and also being able to write the book like a book. Because that's another thing like I've seen people kind of struggle with. Like they write the book like they're writing like a movie or they're writing a TV show.
Right.
And it is a completely different form.
Right. And I won't lie to you, like, I'm one of those very visual persons. So it was like watching a movie for me as I was reading it.
Mhm,
And like, and I know that that's what made me cry and start to shake at that
mhm.
scene because it was just like I was watching it and I just like, oh, like feeling like I could feel the like pain and anger and hurt that it took to have that scene, and then how much selfish selflessness it took to step outside of what you believe and what you want to help your child in this moment, and then to be helpless at the same time, bruh. Though, y'all,
Yeah, and
y'all.
I'm not even like a very visual reader, and it hit me.
I don't know if I'll read a better book this year. That is my at March 31st,
Yeah.
2023. I don't know that I will read a book that will move me and have me feeling empowered and frustrated and happy and sad all at the same damn time. Because the truth of the matter is it's somebody's reality.
Yeah.
It's somebody's actual life, right? Sans magic or whatever. I don't know. I'm not putting no limits on what could exist
Mhm.
out there, but the the whole of the story, like part of the reason my family is even in Oklahoma is because of
Yeah.
a situation like what happened to Evelyn. Like, we wasn't in Oklahoma. We were definitely in the South, And just there is so much about this book that I love.
She did it.
Dina, if there is, I know you did try to get me to read a bunch of other books, girl, but this one was it.
I
This
knew you would
one
like
was
this one. I said,
it.
"Shay is gonna like this one." I said she's gonna relate to it a lot.
This one, so it's funny because there's a title of a book,
Mhm.
and I feel like somebody discussed it on our channel. But it's like I thought the title of the book was a beautiful title, but I've never had a situation where I could say that I felt it. But I can say that to describe this book. So the title of the book is "I Thought My Soul Would Rise and Fly," and no lie, I've never felt like I want to have just this like experience of watching myself read this book, which I'm glad because half of the book that I did read, I did record myself, so there is actually like an hour and something footage of me reading this book on my phone. But yo, like, I want to see the moment in which I was like, "Oh, this is the one right here. Oh, she did this.
She did this. Like,
She
there's just no
did this."
reason they shouldn't have been pushing this book to everybody
No, but no reason.
at all. Like, they should have been handing this one out in 2020 like they were handing out the other ones, but for some reason this one was very hard to get.
Right. 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 Oh my god. Okay, so can we get into spoilers? Can
Yes,
we? Because
let's
I've
get
been
into
trying not to say
spoilers.
nothing. Whew! Child. Okay. Let me go to the first thing that made me be like, okay. Okay, y'all. Y'all. I was like, why is there no audio book? I'm just thinking about
Yeah,
all the people who don't have access to this book every
I
time I
know.
think about it. Every time I think about it, like, why?
It's just a shame.
It is. It is. It is. You go for it. I'm trying to find the page. I didn't like highlight it. It's the shoot, but I was like, I can't get up and grab a highlighter. I gotta finish reading. I wish I had. I wish I
I did like a bunch of random highlights throughout. Like the first one I just did
had.
because
Okay.
it was funny.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was when she thought she started getting cocky and she tried to use her powers to get rid of her period.
That
And
part,
then her
I was giggling. Her mom was like, "Really?"
and then her mom was like, "Did you try to jube your monthly out?" Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie though.
And
I
then
could
she just
totally see
says,
that. But go. No, don't do
I
this right
mean,
now.
I would
Go
have
lay
tried
down.
that too, but her mom really just shook her head and threw some pads at her and kept it pushing.
Right, like, girl, come on now. It's a lot of stuff you might. Girl, no.
And meanwhile,
Um,
she's like on the floor,
right.
passed out, all lightheaded from losing too much
Right,
blood.
like, girl, you over here trying to.
Like, she really just threw some pads at her and let her help herself get up off the floor.
Right. I'm so mad I didn't highlight because now I'm like I can't even remember what it was. Now I know it's something in chapter 24 I like because I made a mental note of that, but it's something before that. Okay, let's just go to that. Y'all, I'm irritated. Here's your friendly reminder: when you're reading a book and you like something and you want to remember it, highlight it in the moment.
Another one that thing that I highlighted that I thought just was very interesting was when she had invited Clay over for dinner with her family,
Mm-hmm.
and then he started helping do the dishes, and it was like shocking to them because it was the first time they saw a man like in the kitchen doing dishes,
Right.
and it just like brought back that conversation about generational cycles, like, and how they constantly repeat themselves, and like how her mom didn't have a good relationship with love, and she had been warning her prior to that
Right.
about like the crazy things that love will make you do.
Yeah, no, I thought that was pleasantly foreshadowed. Like I knew something was gonna happen to Clay. Like I just knew it. Like your mother is telling you, your mother is like, let him go, let him go, let him go, because she had to let. And if she
Yes.
ever does, I would love a prequel book. I would
Yeah.
love a prequel book because I would love to know like what happened to her. Because I feel like her mom did something and the dad got blamed for it. But I don't
Yeah,
know.
I
I don't
feel
know.
like she's part of the I think her mom did talk about it. She's like
Right? She does say
part
a
of the
little bit.
reason
She's
she
like, I
said,
had to send him away, is what she says. And
yeah.
so that's what made me think like that maybe somebody hurt him. And so, or was hurting him, and she did kind of what like Evelyn is doing, but he took the fall for it, or he got blamed for it type of deal was
Yeah.
what I was thinking.
I'm trying to
But
see if
I would
I
love a
highlighted
prequel
that.
book to find out because I curious. And even more so, even a future book. Why don't your daughters and you get along?
Yes.
What is the reason? Why are you doing the same thing, or y'all having the same contentious relationship that
Yeah, that
your
your
grandmother
mom
and your
had.
mama having?
Yeah.
What is going
And
on there?
she and her mom have kind of like a shady
Right, and it's like,
relationship.
come on, right, and I know the relationship didn't get no better with the last chapter. I know your mama
No.
gonna have something to say about that,
Oh yeah.
like, cause she already was like, it don't work every time. How you know?
Yeah.
How you think you got here?
Yes,
Literally was
when
what
she
she
said that,
said. She was like,
yo, she had
ask
me
your
rolling.
sisters. She was like, ask your sisters, then go ask your look in the mirror and ask yourself. I was like, okay, mama. Okay,
Yes.
mama. Yeah, like, girl, I love y'all, but you wasn't supposed to be here.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I was like, well, at least she told you. Okay, so this was a scene that I it was her and Clayton, and it's towards the end of the book. But he says like she's crying, and he's like, "Remember I told you when I told you you might be the smartest person I know?" She's like, "Uh huh." I sniffle into his chest. This right here, this is one of the problems with being so damn smart. You think too much. You just thought yourself into the saddest future imaginable. And I promise you, it ain't going to be like that. We're connected, you and me. I think we always have been. When I tell you that was the first time I shed a tear, I was like, first off, Clay, why do I think you talking to me right now? Like, I feel like I know I think too much, sir. Shut up. Y'all.
Yeah,
Because the truth is, overthinking frightens you out of stuff that ain't even happened. And just the wisdom of that conversation in that moment for me, chef's kiss.
yes.
Chef's
She
kiss.
was just dropping gems throughout.
Gems throughout, and I'm mad I wasn't highlighting left and right. I'm mad I wasn't highlighting left and
Like
right.
one of my favorite things was we, all of us, just keep fighting the same battles in new eras with new faces each time. It's never ending until the world changes in an unfathomable way. Our kind of jubilation ain't never gonna die out. And she's just talking about like the constant battles that
Right.
we've been fighting through time with slavery. Like it's just new people, but it's no different than fighting the KKK. They just got different names.
Right. And don't have masks. Like they don't
Yeah,
care. They don't care. Like it, man. There was like there were so many different moments in which I was like, I hate the disrespect I see the new generations put on the older generation so very much. Because the truth of the matter is, as hard as life is now, it wasn't never this hard for us.
yeah,
It wasn't never this hard for us. And so many times, like even I know I tweeted yesterday, I saw somebody like going in on like Toni Morrison and Bell Hooks
yeah,
and all these people, and I was just like, here's the thing: it is so easy in 2023 when you have the benefit of the internet and books and libraries and
yeah,
education that they didn't have access to in the times in which these people were growing up, and to talk about all the things that they didn't do right, all the things you think they could have done better. But the truth of the matter is, what are you doing but remarking on these women and the amazing things that they've done from the home of your living room where you ain't ever been persecuted? Really, truly. Like
yeah. Some
it's a
people
shame.
like came across some girl's video earlier this week on YouTube, and she's just talking about she can't read a book without racism, and she normally stays away. Mind you, she's black. She's like, I normally stay away from these types of books. I normally don't um get involved with Black Lives Matter unless I have to. I just don't like to think about that stuff. And like, girl, the way you are so privileged where you don't even have to
It's a
think about that
privilege where
stuff.
you don't have to think about it, where you can like the fact that you are in a place where you could be like, oh, I don't get involved with that is insane to me.
It was crazy.
Insane to me.
She really sat up on here and was just like, and I grew up in the burbs. I didn't have to deal with any of that stuff.
Oh, okay.
But
So
like,
and
you didn't have to
nobody
deal with
told you that
racism.
you sounded like you speak well for a black girl. Get out my face. Nobody
Yeah,
told you that you were pretty for a black girl. Get out
yeah.
my face. Because if you grew up in the birds and you were the only black person, somebody said it once because they think it's a compliment.
I heard it, and I
I'm
didn't
trying
grow up
not
in
to
the
cuss.
burbs.
I'm trying not to cuss on your channel because
No, it's okay. I'm not monetized.
these people, like the delusion.
And I really wish people would read more books like these, because it kind of like shows you that this is not just a period in time. These were real people, and I think that's what
Real
some
people.
people don't understand, because it's so easy to hear like conversations about history, but to actually realize these are people who were going through, yes, some of them went through somewhat similar things than to us, but they also were had to grow up a lot faster.
A lot faster. through a lot more things. Like the truth, like
Yes.
here's the thing. The truth is none of us have the actual legitimate fear of looking a white person straight in the face. None of us feel like we have to say yes ma'am or yes sir to a 5-year-old white child. None of us feel that way. None of us have had to be on a sidewalk and step off that sidewalk because white people are coming. So let me calm myself. Like, there is a difference.
Yes.
And to not acknowledge that and to act like it didn't exist and it wasn't a thing, first of all, is a shame on the people that came before you and survived all that to making sure you got to this place.
Yes.
Because had they not done that, had they not learned to step off that sidewalk, had they not practiced what it took to not say nothing and not haul off and hit somebody, you wouldn't be here.
Yeah, and unlike that other book that I could not stand that I read a few months ago that also dealt with generational magic, that part aspect never came up in that book at all. Like, it was okay to yell at your ancestors in that book.
Nah, every time she came out alone on somebody, who you talking at? Don't do that. I just thought it. You just thought it? You just thought it? Oh, okay. Because here's the thing. I have certainly got popped for a look. And I know I don't think grandma can read my mind, but bruh, I was saying something I probably, if she could have, she would have popped me for. So, like, y'all, I don't, how did y'all give that hoe a 3-book deal and audiobooks talking about making a movie and we don't got an audiobook for this? Is she a hoe in my book? Like, she not a hoe, but like that, she a hoe for me. Like, nah, why? Tell me why. No white person disrespects her in this book and then she falls in love with them. Full fucking stop.
Exactly. That's probably another reason why this book didn't get an audiobook. There was not a white love interest in sight, not a potential white love interest, not a white person on the street saying that she looked cute. Nothing.
Nothing. Not a damn. And it was fantastic without it.
Exactly. Like, even through all this, like, all these difficult things they were going through, we still got black love on page.
We got black love on page.
We got black
black joy. We got black friendship.
And that's what I tell
black
people,
solidarity.
Like, it's not just about black trauma versus black joy. You can do both in the same book and create a solid story, and she really did that here.
The truth of the matter is, no life, black, white, orange, yellow, purple, or green, is all one thing.
Exactly.
The truth is, you know how it isn't for white people? Because y'all wouldn't be so fucking pressed about black people. Like, if white people were truly so superior, why the fuck would you give a fuck about somebody who could never be you? There's a discomfort in that. There's a discomfort in white supremacy. There's a discomfort in anti-blackness. You can never be comfortable in it because the thought that it could not be there, the thought that it could all come tumbling down, is your worst fucking nightmare. So there is no complete joy in any of these experiences because you can't.
There wasn't even joy in having these magical powers. Like they said, we have them for a reason.
Right.
I think what the Roman said, jubilation comes from vengeance.
When she said, why do we have it? And she said, to survive. I kid you not, it was like I heard my grandma say it in that moment. And I was like, yo, the truth of the matter is, for so many of our ancestors, that was their only goal.
Yeah.
To survive. Not to go to college, not to get married, not to have kids, to survive.
And truth
and
be
if
told,
that
Vivi
don't
was
make
minding
you
her
think,
business.
Right. If that
like
don't
she
make
was
you
minding her
think,
business, this white man started stalking her. And she didn't even know for what reason.
Man. Oh, there was so much I wish that could have been touched on. Because, like, when she said she couldn't protect me then, why would I think she could protect me now? And I was like, if you don't shut your little haughty ass 16-year-old mouth up. Shut up.
Because as her mom said, she tried to do something. They threatened worse to her.
Right. The way that I was like, I gotta remember you a kid. You're a kid. You're doing kid things. This makes sense. You're being a kid. Oh,
Like, I'm gonna
and
just let you have that because you
I'm
just
gonna let you have
rediscovered
that
your
because you
trauma,
are a kid. You're
because she had
right. It's a
blocked out
lot
that
going.
trauma, and
Right.
and
It's so much going on. It's so much happening. Also, can we talk about how the fact that you showed us pain, anger, despair, revenge, and not once did you have to put it explicitly on the page? You didn't have to traumatize your readers in that way.
no, because even like the scary parts, I don't feel like she went overboard with like
At
harsh
all.
descriptions.
At all. At all. And there are plenty of times I was like, girl, I mean, I would have done a little bit more. Not you crying over these dead white men, girl. Not I. Not I. I'm not. Mm.
I think she was more crying over the fact that she was a murderer.
Right.
Yeah,
Again, you took out the garbage, girl. You a
yeah.
trash man. Be proud of what you did, girl. Like, I wouldn't even consider that murder. Like, to
Yeah.
me, what makes you different from a judge? Like, every time a jury sends someone to the death penalty, do they
Yeah.
all become murderers in that moment? I don't think so. You did what needed to be done, honey.
Yeah,
Go for
and I like that she didn't even use her magic to kill him. She's like, no, I'm gonna do this by hand,
right.
and
Right.
made that man suffer. Even
Right.
that's not even a fraction of how she and Clay suffered.
At all. At all. At all. So like the like story of how my family got here. Two of my grandmother's siblings were raped by white men in the South. And their father killed both those men. And we got to Oklahoma. They flipped their names on the census, dropped their ages back 2 years, and acted like nothing had happened. And do you think I give a flying fuck about those men being dead? Nah. I hope they killed you before you were able to have kids and give birth to some more motherfuckers like you, to be perfectly honest. Because the truth of the matter is nobody likes to admit that once you assault someone in that way, you have forever altered the course of their life. The person that they were going to be before that moment, they will never be again. The mother, the father, the sister, the brother is never the same. And you affect everybody they touch after that. I mean, I just think you need to go meet your maker. That's the choice you make with your life, personally. So when she killed him, I was just like, I mean, okay, next.
And I mean, he was already pushing his luck, threatening her sister,
Right. Though you came in the house.
and you're throwing around those threats.
You came in the house. And to think this all started because she was mad at them white people and saved their life. I was like, in my head, when she saved them, I was like, you should let them die. Ask me, did I care? You should have let them die. Like, I think that so much of the conversation about racism and anti-blackness is if we talk, if we educate, if we keep having the conversations, people will change. No, nah,
Not at
because the
all.
truth of the matter is it's all been here. It's all we
Yeah, as you
know.
said, it's gonna
They
be just
know. Everyone knows. You don't want it to change.
as she said, it's just different names and faces, same old
Different
shit.
names and faces. Oh my, the Kennedy scene, the conversation where her uncle and her mom were talking about Kennedy, I was like, the way that white people talk about Kennedy and black people talk about Kennedy, two different conversations.
Exactly.
Two different conversations. Because that's the most beloved president. Let white people tell him. Black people are still like, okay. I love this revisionist history. Y'all try to act like after the fact. Like y'all love Martin Luther King now. Y'all couldn't stand him when he was alive. Y'all couldn't stand him when he first died.
They had to campaign so hard for him to have a holiday. Had to create
Man,
a whole classic song.
and Arizona still don't honor it. Fuck out of here, bro. Like, yo, when in the scene where her mother and her grandmother are speaking out to the Hinds, I was shaking because there is so much selflessness in her mother aches behind this thing, doesn't want to engage with it at all.
Yes.
Because it cost her so much. So much. And she stepped out of that. Like, Jubilation is a traumatic thing for her mother. You see it throughout the story. The amount of strength it takes to step out of your fears, step out of your comfort. Y'all, one of the most beautiful scenes in the book. Like, I'm trying not, like, that moment.
Yeah, she did it with that scene. Like,
she did it. She did it, y'all. If you ain't read this book, why not? Like, the truth be told, like, why not? Is it because you didn't hear about it today? Well, you're hearing about it today, and you should read this book, y'all. Like,
and we got like a good magic. Like, we had a good magic
we had
experience.
a good magic system.
And it's, even though it's not one of those big flashy magic systems where
Right.
you can't remember half of what is actually happening.
Right. Right. I loved how visual it was.
Yes.
I loved how in the story you can tell that there's not like one way to use your jubilation and to do it, but I love that, like, we got to be on her journey as she figured out how to do it, and the visualizations with the bands and like each of them.
Yes,
I loved it.
And a lot of authors do like a dreamscape type of concept, but this is the one time where I thought it was actually done well.
Oh yeah, no,
like,
I definitely thought it was done well.
She wasn't going on the dreamscape to go make out with her boyfriend or some other nonsense. Like, every conversation was important. Even that one with her granddaughter.
The one with her granddaughter was the most important. Like,
yeah, she was like prepping her. She's like, you're not gonna like this part, what happens next, but it has to happen this way. And I'm here to help walk you through it.
Right. She's like, I'm gonna be with you as far as I can be with you. You're not gonna like this night. And like I said, just the way in which she warned us, like, hey, something heavy's about to come. But she warned us with the main character. So it doesn't feel, it's not putting you out there in this, dang, she just ruined the story for me. But it is like, hey, I need you to prepare yourself because this part might be a little harder. And ma'am.
Also, when she was talking to her granddaughter, and
she still writing, ma'am, please. I'm begging you.
When she was talking to her granddaughter, and she found out that her name was Addie, and she's like, "That bitch didn't name her like child after me."
I was hollering. I was like, and then the other one came, and I was like, Okay. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. So she had twins, right? She had 2 daughters, right?
She had.
Or did her daughter have 2 daughters?
And then it says she had at least 1 daughter.
Okay, she had 1 daughter, and her daughter had twins. Is what happened.
Yeah, I think her daughter had twins.
Okay. Because I wasn't sure if she, like, at first I was like, I know she's gonna like have a baby and like I knew from the moment that was there, and I was like, oh, whatever happens, she pregnant. Like, I know this at the end of the book.
Yeah.
Before we got there, and then I was like, wait, was it her mom that she did it? But it was the man. Yeah. And I again.
And then even her granddaughter pointed out she turns into like a nicer person. Like later,
Right.
she
She's
kind of
like,
just
you're
lets him.
not like this. Right. She's like, you're different. This is okay. Okay. And again, we've talked about this multiple times in different stories.
Yeah.
Like the parent you have versus the grandparent that they become later, right? Or the child they were before you were born. Like every person knows people at different stages and points in their life. So the person you know might not be the person that always
Oh, no,
existed.
I found that she had 2 girls, so she ends up having 2
Okay, so
daughters.
she had two
Yeah,
daughters. That's what I thought.
yeah.
That's what I thought. So she had two, she was pregnant with twins. Okay. That's what I thought. And I was like, when there was multiple times towards the end that she's like, I feel him or I feel so full. And I was like, girl, it's because you're pregnant, girl.
Yeah,
That's
no,
because you're pregnant,
because
girl.
one ends up being named after her mom, but she wasn't sure, she doesn't know what happens to take her there.
Right,
Yeah.
right. What happens or what gets there. Right, right.
Or I think that one might be maybe, like, later down the line.
Right. And I was like, yo, the way this is set up perfectly to have a prequel and another book, like, why? Why does someone read your manuscript as an agent and did not work their ass off to get you a trilogy? Because this,
Yeah, the one time, like, I actually picked up a book and said, "I want more." Like,
right,
'cause it didn't, like, sometimes I'll read a book that is a part of a trilogy, or a part of a duology, and then like, by the 70% mark, I'm like, "Well, the story could end right here."
right. No part in this did I want the story to end. No part of this was I like, this is taking too long, nothing. So I'm not even gonna hold y'all. I read majority of the book today because depression was kicking my tail this month. And when I tell you, as soon as I got in it, it was no pulling me out of that.
Yeah, like, it reads
It was
so
no pulling me out of
quickly,
it.
like, once you get into it.
It it takes you in so fast.
And then, like you said, even having the father on page. Half the time, we can't even get these parents on page in the book to help their children when they really need it. Not only
Right.
did her mom and grandmom come through when she needed them the most, when a lot of books would have just had her battling out herself, but her father was constantly checking up on her from jail.
Right. Right. And the fact, here's the other thing that I loved. Like, and I know I've seen a comment about the like fantasy love interest not being able to be a thing. What I did like was that nowhere in this story did the person that is pouring into you and giving you wisdom did you have to lose that person, because that is super
Exactly.
common. Super common.
I think a lot of people go there to get the reader to feel emotions easier. Like, it's the
Right.
easy go to. It fills a lot of page space. It gets the reader to connect to the character because we can all connect through grief. I'm like, there was a lot of things she did in here to make you feel for me without having to kill her mom or grandma.
Man. And I hate that it is Clay. I really do hate that it's Clay because I thought Clay's character was really good. I really also RJ.
Yes.
I'm not
I like
gonna
that she
hold
tied up
you.
the end that,
I
like, plot too. She didn't leave it hanging, which I appreciated.
I loved it, and there's no part of me that don't think that RJ is who she marries. Like
Mhm.
there's no part of me that doesn't see RJ raising those two little girls with no problem. Like the way in which, and I like that a black man could call a black woman out on something that she did, not in anger,
Mhm.
not in reproach, not like I'm better than you, but like I want to understand. This made me feel bad. This has been, why can't you be nice to me? When I tell you my heart hurt in that moment,
Yes.
I was like, that took a lot. That
But I
took
like
a
that
lot.
she didn't just ignore it and, like, we never saw
She
the
didn't
character
ignore
again.
it. Right. We never
They
saw
had
it
that
again.
sit down and then, like, they talked again later.
Right. And there's no part of me again that don't think that that's who she married. Like I I want more. I want more. The LGBTQ rep, I called it and I was like, I want her to say that she wrote about Evelyn in this book, but it's okay. She don't have to. I thought it was so beautiful. I thought it was so beautiful. The way her best friend was like heartbroken over this thing about herself that she doesn't want to change, shouldn't have to change, can't change. And the ways in which Evelyn was like, I don't understand it. I've never thought about it. It'd be weird to picture to me, but I love my best friend and my best friend deserves to be happy. She's one of the best people I know. And if there is a hell that exists, she'll never see it because that's who she is at her core. And I just, for me, it is the unapologetic support and love for Black women that rang true for me. Then it was a, you not gonna hurt my friend. And I
Yes.
personally, I'm always here for you not gonna hurt my friend. I'm always here for that.
She's like, tell him if he tries it again.
And she didn't even say tell him it tries it again. She went home with her. She went home. Look that man dead in his eye. Touch her again. If you didn't like this book, it's because you probably a hit dog and you probably was hollering. Because the truth of the matter is amazing.
That's what I'm
Amazing.
saying. She touched on so many
So
different
many
aspects
things.
of the Black experience without having to over explain it to anybody, which I also really appreciate. Not once did I feel like she was talking down to me about stuff I already knew.
Right. Right. And man, is it Deja or Deja? Let me know because I don't want to say it wrong. When you talk about the jail, so again, my life, both of my parents have been in and out of jail my entire life. It's part of the reason why my grandmother raised me. So, right, every birthday, every Christmas, my mom would send us checks for however old we were turning. Like, and again, she's in jail. You can't work from jail. Now, as an adult, I realized they pay you pennies to do this in jail. And, because of course slavery is legal if you're incarcerated. And it's crazy to me to think that there are people like living out walking free that won't send their kids money. And like, regardless to the relationship I have with my parents or lack thereof, there's something to be said about doing that. Like, this illusion that is created that Black parents are absent, Black fathers are absent, like, we have definitive fucking proof is not true. Literally. Like,
And
for
that's the
years
thing.
now, the numbers of Black men have outweighed any other in the activity, the activeness in their child's life.
And that's the thing, we've had this discussion before about how we pick up so many of these X stories, and the parents are just MIA, and they're like, well, they're at that age where they have to be doing stuff on their own. But then they have them like battling racists, and I'm
Right.
like, but where are the parents though to help them
Right.
through this
Right.
difficult time? And make up all types of excuses to not have the parents on page. Like, life was hard. Her mama was working, but she made sure she came home every night and they sat together and ate a meal.
Right. Because the truth of the matter is, when could they not? Like, the truth of the matter is, a lot of Black and this time parents went out all late every time of the night because it wasn't safe to be late and out any time of the night. Like, that's the part of the illusion. Is like there was not this safety that we feel now. Like, the sirens that go off in most people's town once a week, that used to be the siren to tell Black people they needed to be out of town. Because if they weren't, they would be hurt. Literally. Literally, there are still places in Oklahoma that my older aunts warned me out in freaking 2009. Don't go to this place. Up
There
until
are
the
still
mid
places
70s,
in
they had a
PA.
sign. Up until the mid 70s, they had a sign. Don't let us catch your black ass here after sundown. Don't go in that town by yourself. Don't go there.
There are
Like,
still places in PA too where they said don't go.
don't
And it was
don't
in the
go.
newspaper recently, don't go.
Again, like there there is so much to fight with and contend with being a black person in America today. But there is so much that individually we need to thank the people that came before us for our ancestors, because a lot of us, we can barely do what we dealing with now. In truth be told, let alone what they had to deal with. And that's all this book reminded me of. Like, I just remember like getting to the end and being like, thank you. Because the
Yeah,
truth of the matter is, I know me and I know my mouth and my temper. I would be dead. I I would be dead.
yeah, like there was another part where it was sad where like they were getting harassed by those racist boys, and Clay wanted to fight them, and she had to hold him
She
back.
had to, because it would mean your life.
And they were talking about
It
it's
is
sad that we can't
Blackwell. It
fight.
is Blackwell. That's exactly the one. Blackwell. Exactly it. That's exactly the town. That's the exact town my aunts was like, don't go there by yourself. Exactly that town. That's crazy that that's the one that you named. That's the exact town it was. Exact town. That is how prevalent it was. Me and KJ ain't seen each other a day in our life. Y'all, I I cannot truly fathom the strength it took to be a black person in America prior to before I was born, is the truth. I am so very thankful for every black person that made it through, because I know it wasn't easy. There's a line from there's the Delaney sisters. They were these two black women that lived to be over 100, and they had books and plays and movies made about them. And she was like, sometimes you gotta eat crow, and crow is a tough old bird to eat. Like, sometimes you had to stomach what was going on, and that's not easy. And I think that the way in which she showed that was beautifully done.
Yeah, like one of
Like,
my highlights was like when she was talking to RJ after Clay was killed, and she was talking about like she said, I lived here my whole goddamn life and I ain't welcome here. Neither was Clay. And she was asking him, she's like, how can someplace be your home if you're not safe there?
yeah. And then when RJ was talking about it too, and RJ was like speaking, I was like, here's the thing. And I'm not one for black man slander at all. I can't imagine what it was like to be a black man in those times. Because the truth of the matter is like, we're always women, right? We're always aware that we are feminine and that there are ways in which we're going to be weaker and da da da. It is something else to know that you have everything in your power to put this man down, everything in your power to protect what you have every right to protect. And to know that if you do, not only will it cost your life, but that protection, you got to be here to give it. Not at all saying black men don't have problems. Not at all saying black women don't have problems. But bruh, the strength it took black men throughout this story to exist just as hard as it was for black women in the story. Like, to me, if not more, because y'all had power. The way in which this man knew you could handle yourself and still feared for your life. I can't imagine that. I I think she did such a beautiful job with every aspect of this story. They don't want you.
I was
Every
saying,
aspect of the
there
story.
were parts that make you laugh. There are parts that make you cry. There are parts that bring you joy.
The part where she takes off her smile and gives it to her sister,
Yes.
and she places it in the astronomy book. I was like, I love this.
Even
I
like
love
she
this.
opens the book with them having a Juneteenth celebration.
I loved it. 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 I just, everything about it, I was like, this is black. This is black. This is black.
And then
The
they had to
way it,
cancel the celebration at the end because of
right,
Clay.
because Clay, man. And the fact that that man was thinking about her birthday.
Yes.
He was like, and I loved how there was no part of him that was gonna let her like give up on her dreams. Okay, well, you gonna go to school and study a lot. I don't have money for college. Well, they got these things called scholarships. Do you know how much strength it takes to be in the midst of that life and still be thinking so positively about what you could possibly do when everything around you is showing and telling you that it's not? That little boy was horny, but he had some wisdom. He had some wisdom. Like, he had some wisdom. I was not. Okay, Clay. Okay, Clay. You know, y'all playing a little reckless game over here, but I like you, Clay. I ain't gonna hold you. I like you. I was 16 once too, and then you're gonna be like, Now, mind you, y'all situation a little different, so you know it works out in the end for y'all. But I just was like, there are so many times that like I loved that no matter how frustrating life was, Clay above anybody was seeing the beauty of it. Clay was like, let's clean this up. Let's make this a place again. Let's people, we need to see this. We need to know this exists. And I understood the selfishness of Evelyn. Like, no, I don't want to share this with anybody but you.
Yeah, and the
I,
idea of like, well, if we clean it up, then they'll see like this place
then
was
they'll
just
see
sitting
it,
here, and
right?
then
And they'll
they might take it over and use
right.
it for something else.
It's the dichotomy of, to me, fully dealing with things as a black person. Like, there are like, I want to share this with other people. I want to, but some things need to just be for us. I ain't gonna hold you. I'm gatekeeping the shit out of blackness. Some things are just for us. And I thought that that was a beautiful way to show the two sides of that conversation. Yeah, there's nothing there. Mm,
I'm
y'all.
saying like I couldn't find any like bad moments. There was no, and I'm like even when I was frustrated by like Eileen and some of her little hot headedness, it wasn't like the same anger that I feel
Oh
reading other
no,
stuff.
it sure wasn't. Again, she's 16. Like, literally, I'd be like, "Girl,
Yeah.
what is you?" She's 16, and I calm down because I'd be like, "I need you to think a little bit more. I think I need you. I need you. I need you. I need you." And I just love that. Like, everybody was like, "You look impatient. You kind of need to work on that."
Yes, Deja, that too, because a lot of books recently have been talking about gentrification, but they're completely missing the point. It's not just white people coming into your neighborhood
Right.
and
And we've
popping
talked
up
about this.
and And like, because I see it all the time in my neighborhood, like my city is working on a actively working on a gentrification project. And it's the people who are sending you flyers every week asking to buy your house. It's the way they prevent certain businesses from opening up in your
Right.
neighborhood.
And honestly, so we talked about this a little bit another time. I feel like it was this month.
Mm.
But the type of gentrification that Eveline is talking about is the type that was the most prevalent in America. It was the
Yeah.
type where black people came together and created communities, and then the government forced them out, saying they're building a highway or they're
Which
making
they
a
are
lake
still doing to
or
this
did it
day in South
still doing
Carolina.
to this day, except all they do is destroy the community and put nothing there. Nothing. When the Instagram account that I follow that'll show like businesses and bustling cars and everything, and then it'll show a patch of nothing but barren field in today.
Yeah, I was watching last, I think it was last year or the year before. I was watching High on the Hog, and one of the episodes they were in South Carolina learning about culinary down there. And they, like, the group that they were talking to, one of the men was being forced off of his land. Like,
Right,
this girl was actively fighting with her uncle to stop them from being forced off their family
right,
land with the so-called highway construction project coming.
right. Why do we think eminent domain is a thing? Because the truth of the matter is, there's a
And
good.
they
You wasn't forcing white people off their land for nothing.
Yeah, and they were still amidst fighting the government from taking their land. They're still finding ways to do stuff for their to feed their community.
When the grandma was like, "It's for survival," I was like, "If it's one thing black people gonna do, it's survive and laugh. If it's one thing we gonna do, it's survive and laugh." And the way in which the book's last chapters have laughter in every single one of them, yeah, yeah. She did not have to snap this hard, and I'm so glad that she did. And I wish she had an agent that would have fought for this to be a trilogy because I don't
Yes,
understand why it's not.
we
We are if
definitely
it's
need
one
another
thing we
book.
gonna do is laugh. All of us watched that January 6th happen, astonished and horrified, and was making jokes like nobody's business. Because we gonna kiki. I love it. Y'all, this book. Please don't quit writing, Kara, how do you say? Please don't quit writing. And maybe, consider indie. So, I personally, if you did a Kickstarter for an audio book or a GoFundMe, take my coin, sis. Here you go.
Yeah, I'm hoping she's working on something. I mean, I know she's busy with the TV stuff, but I'm hoping she writes her own plays as well, but I'm hoping she's working on some other books too.
I am too.
Because, like, a lot of people need to sit down and read this book because she really masterfully talked about so many different topics.
So many things. So many things. And honestly, I don't think she didn't cover any of the topics well. It's not like you touched this like somebody we know and didn't do nothing with it.
Exactly.
Nothing with it. Literally, the things that I want more of are the story, the family, the characters. I don't want you to have talked about more anything because you did exactly what needed to be done. You ate completely, left not a crumb. Y'all.
Yet there were some
Owes
other
me
books that
nothing.
got pushed that same year over this one. I don't understand. The way people were flocking to black books to teach them things, and this one said, "I'm not going to teach
I'm
other
not teaching
people.
you nothing.
I'm just going to tell it like it is
Literally, the
for
book said, if
my
you know,
people."
you know. Literally, the book said, if you know, you know.
And if you learn something along the way, good for you. But this isn't for me to teach others. This is a story for my people.
Never at any time did I think like, who did she write this for?
No, it was
Never did
clear.
I think, what was a black person supposed to get out of this book? Because you know, with the other black girl, I was like, what was the lesson here? What was the
And the
lesson
thing
here?
is, she said when she decided to write this book, she was thinking about her mom and how what her mom's life would have been like back then, because she didn't really get to talk to her mom about her teen years.
Right. Right.
And I feel like she wrote this to show us like a glimpse of what life would have been like, to kind of, like I said, make that feel like a more human experience, because some of us are so far removed we can't even fathom.
Right. Right. Like, yeah. Am I gonna read another book this year? I don't know. This is it, y'all. Am I probably gonna start it over tomorrow and reread it? Because I just was like, I did not doubt that it was gonna be a good book. I did not know how great of a book it was gonna be.
And I like that she also incorporated root, but it wasn't just like I'm basing my magic off of this to like capitalize on that, and we're not going to actually talk about what the more spiritual aspects are. Like even Granddaddy said, she's like, why aren't you using your like little spells and potions? She's like, that stuff is good, but that's not what the jubilation is.
Right, right. This is a whole different thing. I love it because I think that so often people try to like add things in because they think it's gonna make it more authentic or whatever. And it's like, first of all, we can clearly tell you didn't do the research required to do this. Second of all, I don't like the way you're handling it. The way in which this is a very specific practice in a
Yeah.
very specific place with specific people, and you are treating it like it's not, is disrespectful at the least, heinous at worst for me.
No, I was
Because
having a
again, you
discussion
are
with a
priding
friend
yourself
about
on
that.
educating people and you ain't even doing a good job.
I was talking to a friend about that. There are like a lot of books out now that are capitalizing off like West African based religion. So they're all taking it from the same one.
Right.
And then they're touching on the African American version or the Caribbean version. And it's people who don't actually practice doing it. So they have no real clue other than what they learned in books that were probably written by white people.
Right.
And they're adding their own thing to make it this big magic system. And they're using this god and this god the way they want to. And that's disrespectful to the people who actually do practice, because you're
Right.
misrepresenting their religion. And you would never do that with Jesus. You would never go do that with Islam.
Right. Right. Mm, I'm right there with you. I, like KJ, am also thanking Vina for putting me on this book because, man, man, I, I loved it. I loved it. This book owes me nothing. I'm probably going to have a nice little conversation with myself later, reflecting on all the things and thoughts that I felt like. Because again, I finished it right before the live started. So y'all, y'all, fantastic reading experience. I was moved. I felt joy. I felt pain. I felt anger. I felt peace. Mark of a great storyteller, for sure. For sure. And I hate that traditional publishing could do anything to make her feel less than with the way they have treated this story. I pray she knows how great of a story it is, regardless of what publishing does or doesn't do,
Yes,
because
because this is one of the better
amazing.
books I've read. And like I said, I read this originally in 2020, but it's stuck with me and I keep like thinking about it every
Man,
year.
man. I'm not gonna hold you. Probably tops Ray Bear for my favorite black fantasy of YA. And y'all know I love me some Ray Bear. And it's partially because probably I can relate to this way more than Ray Bear because it is very fantastical and magical in a
Mhm.
completely different realm. But she told that story, y'all. She told this story. I pray I can write a book, a story, anything that makes someone feel how I felt when I got to the end of this. If I can do that for one person, all the work that goes into this.
No, I don't even pay attention to the clock app
First of all,
because
I keep that to Gen Z and let them have that because the way in which you would swear these motherfuckers had conversations ain't nobody ever had in life.
yeah. Well, that's because people like our age too keep acting like they do. I'm like,
That part is
I don't
weird to
know. I'm
me. Y'all
like, I don't
are
know about
weird
y'all.
for
Like,
that.
I went to a very white school, and even then, one of my best friends is half Puerto Rican. We had conversations about race.
Right. Right.
Like, it didn't never not come up.
Right. The
Like,
way in which
we knew that
I
we
let
weren't like the other white kids at school.
right. Even with my white friends, like so my best friend, my oldest friend, we will have been friends 20 years this year. Best friends since I was 12 years old. When we were going through puberty and we were having conversations about our bodies, she's a thicker white girl. I was I mean, I'm still kind of little now, but I'm like curvy now. Thank you, second puberty. But like I was a stick, for majority of my life. I didn't get over 50 pounds till I was 12, literally. So that tells y'all how small I was majority of my life. And the conversation we had about how she wanted to be my size and I wanted to be her size because the way in which bodies are looked at in the black gaze versus the white gaze are not the same.
Yeah, I was a little skinny mini for a long time.
Right. And
Like,
I was like, I hated it. Hula hoop through a
yeah,
Cheerio jokes.
yeah,
There was no part of me that ever in life was like, I want to be skinny. Flat tummy, maybe, but skinny,
mhm,
never. Never. There was never a time I was thinking about I didn't have to deal with, and not saying that black girls don't have these
yeah,
issues or anything, because I do, especially if you grow up around white people, you do
mhm.
end up having these bulimia, anemic issues, not anorexia issues. Again, not saying they don't happen to black, they're just not as common in these ways because the way in which we view bodies and the way in which they view bodies have just been different.
Yeah, I found my old prom pictures the other day, and I was like, wow, completely different person. I forgot how skinny I was
Girl was looking like, huh.
because I didn't start gaining weight till college.
Girl, started college at 107, left that at 140 that freshman year. Right? Skin definitely had combos that were different. Right? They were different. And like again, that's part of just the reality. And so like again, when we get to these conversations, we're all the same. No, we're not. And it's perfectly fine. Y'all gotta stop saying we're different like it's an issue. Y'all gotta stop
Not
saying
at
we're all
all.
the same like it's a perfect thing. No, it's not.
We have different conversations
Completely different.
that we need to have.
Hello. Say a little louder for the people in the back. Sometimes our conversations have to be different because we are different. Your conversation about the cops and my conversation about the cops was not the same. I guarantee that. Like, I know part of the reason I don't ever not look a white person in the eye is because I was taught we couldn't. And my grandmother was like, never will I raise you to cower. That's a lot. Like, the trauma my grandma had from seeing so many pictures of dark skinned people eating watermelon to the point she wouldn't even buy it for years, would never allow it in the house for years. It's a different life, it's a different experience.
Yeah, like my mom and I were talking about the other day because we were watching some special on, I think it was PBS, on just like sustainable eating and then like food deserts and stuff. And they were talking about like growing their own food, and the one lady on it, she's an older black woman, and she was just like, she's like, I was told that farming was slave work. She's like, that's how I was raised, and my mom had the completely different opposite experience growing up in the Caribbean. That's like what they were taught to survive. Like, they didn't have a lot of money, so but you had enough land and you
Right.
had a backyard, you could grow
You were
food and
growing stuff.
sustain
Right.
yourself.
Right.
A lot of
Right.
people did not have that experience, if even like they didn't have the chance to even be near a farm. Some people to this day won't pick their own, won't even go to like an orchard and pick their own fruit. I remember I did that last year, and I was telling a friend, oh, like my mom and I, we went to this orchard, it was strawberry picking day, and she's like, the way I've never been, and we weren't allowed to go, my family, like they just saw that as slave work. Why are you out in the field picking your own fruit?
Or for me, the way my grandmother instilled land ownership being a deal. Like, I had a one distorted view because, again, living in the Midwest and the South, there's a lot more homes and
Mm,
houses than like up north and north, where there's a lot more apartments and things like that, or
yeah,
you got to be in the suburbs to be in a house. So like,
yeah.
I wasn't aware of like there were black people who didn't grow up with backyards
Or
like
very
that. They,
tiny backyards like
or a
mine
very
is very
tiny
small. We
backyard,
made the most
right?
of it, but
Or
it's
like
small.
things like that, right? Or like, to me, it was never a thought that if I had a yard, I wouldn't grow food there. Never, not a thought.
And that's how
Because
my mom was raised. Like, they had, her grandma had a yard, her mom had a yard. They had to grow food there and sometimes
right,
go sell it to make additional money.
right,
And a lot of people
um,
would not be able to even fathom that.
right. Right. Like, the thing that gets me is there's so many things that, like, again, stereotypes come from usually actual things that are actually happening and a spin on them that is not quite correct, right? So like the conversation and why black people like fried chicken. Well, one, those were the only animals y'all would allow us to keep. Like, that was a thing that people don't talk about or acknowledge. Black people can't swim. Y'all didn't
Yeah.
allow black people in pools, and when they were in pools, y'all threw acid and things of that nature on black people for swimming.
Yeah, I did a whole video talking about that last year when I read a book like that touched on, like, I read a graphic novel that touched upon black people in swimming. So I did it, I think it was like on National Learn How to Swim Day, to like go like just help people understand this is why.
Right, right. Why y'all don't know how to swim? Oh, because systemically,
And it's not even just in the US, like it's an issue with people don't know how to swim. People, the same, I was reading an article about the same thing in the U happening in the UK.
right, right. America definitely don't got the monopoly on anti-blackness. They just definitely raised the fucking bar. Y'all, this country, bro. I, y'all, I don't. There's so much I can say about this book.
Yeah,
So
like
much.
there's just so many like little conversations it opens the door to.
Right. KJ, the way my grandmother taught me at a very, you can't do everything your white friends can do. Literally, look me in my face. Everything she can do, you cannot do. Again, I say it all the time. Everything ain't for everybody. Just because you can do something don't mean that you should do something. I I don't have nothing bad to say about this book. Again, I might read it all over again tonight from beginning to end because it just
Yeah, it was definitely hands down like the best book I've read so far this year, and it's a reread.
or it was a reread. Girl. I want people who have shot their mouth off about that trilogy to read this book, and then I want to have a real conversation. Like I
Yeah,
really, really want to know because like knowing this book exists and that book exists, and then telling me why the other one is the better option. I would love to debate that with someone.
yeah, that's what I tell people. I'm like, I don't care. You can like that book, but it's not the blackety black book you
It
all
right,
think
that
it is.
part.
Like,
You can definitely like the book. You can definitely
you're
like
not
the
about to
book.
sit here and act like it did the thing when
Right. You that
it had to
you
keep saying, you know how black people do XYZ. Not once in this book did it say, you know how black
not
people do
once.
XYZ.
You know how we do, never once. Cause why do we have to we don't say that. We just know. Nothing about this book was to educate somebody. I was with that.
She didn't have to cut off her ancestors. None of that.
For me, it's the
Because
calling on the
because
ancestors
people
that
were
I loved.
because somebody told me like they said, well, sometimes you have to break the line to move forward. What? You know that's the opposite of what they teach in Root. But sure enough, that's the
I
lesson we were
want to
getting.
say who raised y'all, but at this point, does it even matter? Because they failed you, is the truth. Like, bruh.
And
Oh
here
my
was like,
gosh.
no, the ancestors are coming. Like everybody in the proximity who has the connection to Jube was coming.
Man,
Her
the
mom had to put
scene
aside her
where
own trauma to come help her. And oh, when her mom was telling her about this religion and stuff, and she's like, I can't.
no, like not right now. It's not gonna help. Nah, 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 nah. I
And her mom, she's basically told, she's like, I had to find Jesus to keep me in check.
right, right. And it's like that's a whole nother conversation. Whole nother conversation. I think the way in which it is the beginning of a conversation about how the Christianity that exists in America, in my belief, you cannot believe this or not, so much of it requires you to hate yourself. Like, it didn't bring her mother peace. She was denying a part of who she was, something that she couldn't change. And in denying that, it cost her a lot. She was a single mother from the story solely because she didn't want to live in the truth of who she was and what she could do. That's sad. Like, that is a sad truth of the way in which her mother used Christianity in the story. Like, it wasn't uplifting her, it wasn't making her feel powerful or better. It wasn't even saying God had all the answers. It was legitimately for her, I just can't do this. And that is a conversation within itself. I just thought every aspect of how she wrote this story was beautiful.
Yes, because we could get into a whole long conversation about Christianity within the black community, and some people go a little bit too far to the other side, but they don't understand. First of all, it was in Africa prior to slavery. It's
Right.
in the Bible
Right.
that it was in Africa prior to slavery.
Right.
And it's very different, the Christianity
Very
you see
different than
there.
what we have here. Very different. That's the part that gets me, is because
And
the
then
truth of the matter is you cannot acknowledge American Christianity and leave out white supremacy. Full
and you
stop.
also can't talk about Black history without mentioning the church in some capacity. Like, this is
And
the
the way it
60s.
was weaponized
This is the 60s. This was also when the church was a meeting place to
for
and a
black
place
people
that Black people who were involved in the civil rights movement learned how to become
came
a leader.
right.
And
It's
all
the
of that
same
gets
way in
lost.
which it's the craziness. This to me is how, for me, American Christianity is something I know that I could never be a part of. The way that you have two groups of people believing they're praying to the exact same person, reading the exact same book. Insane to me. The same book that we read that tells us that we can do anything that we put our mind to, that we serve a great God, is the same one that tells them that we under we read the same book. Houseway. And it's a no for me, dog. It's a no for me, dog. I remember when the riots happened in 2020. There's this Christian rapper I've loved since I was a kid,
Mm.
McCrae, and he posted this video, and it's this white
I've heard
man,
of him.
and there he's posted this video, and it's a white man. I think he's a pastor, and he's explaining why uh white Christians are Republicans and black Christians are Democrats, and explaining the difference. And it's like, you do see how being that's upholding white supremacy. And that is not like how, and he literally says, how do two groups of people reading the same Bible get to two very, very polarizing views? And it's because in some cases, all y'all see is abortion and diversity. And y'all like, that ain't a guy. How? I saw a tweet and it was like, what's the truth about the church? It was like, Jesus cared more about sex workers than the church has now, before, or ever will. And again, we y'all reading the same Bible? Because y'all love to tell us Mary Magdalene was a prostitute, but y'all, on the other hand, don't want to talk about sexual sin in this way. Huh. What a coinky dink. Y'all, she did so much with this book.
I'm gonna need the people who are trying to write stories about race
Can y'all read this?
read
Can
this one
y'all,
first.
like, first of all, can she give y'all a master class?
That's what I'm gonna say. She
Because
really needs to just give
she
a master class.
really, she really, because
Because I know everybody's like, oh, I have to tell this story. It's my truth. These are my feelings that I'm feeling. But I'm like, your book is making the racist people the hero somehow. And I'm confused. So I'm going to need you to go back in.
girl, I remember she tweeted, the number of black girls that reach out to me and tell me they love, what's her name? Bree Rue something. What's her name? Bree. Is that her name?
Bree?
Bree. Bree was just love unapologetically. She didn't have to do it. Okay, so was she. Unapologetically by two black men.
And she didn't constantly have to put herself in a space with racist white people to get that love.
At all. Literally had to do nothing but exist. They didn't like her because she was magical. They didn't like her because she was powerful. She was a black woman. And that's all she needed. Like, give it up. It's these delusional ass tweets that y'all act like y'all the only motherfuckers doing stuff that be getting me. In the last year, we have read at least 3 to 5 books where black girls were loved unapologetically by black men. And the way y'all act like it's a whole travesty to do it. Don't be mad when your favorite author has to write an interracial romance to get picked up because nobody picked it up. You should be mad. That should
Exactly.
anger your spirit that you had to write that a
That's
black
what
woman couldn't be loved by a
that's what
black
we
man
really
for
need to
them
be
to choose your
fighting
book.
for. Not just to have a seat at the table, but to actually make change.
Let's disrupt, like, it for me, fuck your table. I'm gonna make my own, goddamn it, cause bruh, sitting at your table got mean I gotta eat something I know I'm allergic to.
Yeah, it's books like this that actually really make me miss like when we had black imprints for teens, because
Man,
a lot of people said they're like, oh, we never had. I'm like, we did.
yes we
As a
did.
teen,
Yes we
I
did.
was reading from those black imprints,
Right.
and somehow we were told they didn't sell enough, even though for years they were in my library shelf. My library consistently was buying those books. I know other
Right.
people who lived in black areas were consistently buying those books. I know certain authors, like, they were saying, like, they were getting black children to read before who weren't reading before.
Right.
Some of them, like,
Um,
even had, like, deals on the table for shows and stuff,
right.
but they told us they're not selling.
Right. When I was reading this, and y'all know Mildred D. Taylor, love
Mhm.
her, love her. It made me think of the Road to Memphis. And similar situation happens in the Road to Memphis, and it is such a very real thing, right? In all of the books, she has black men loving black women unapologetically. In every single one, from the land to the last one, they are loved for being them. And she does nothing but show respect to matriarchs, respect to patriarchs, respect for land, respect for family, respect for ancestors. It's not a chain, a yoke to do these things. It's beautiful. And again, another depiction of the strength it took to be a black man in that time. Because again, that I think that's the thing that has bothered me most about reading historical fictions is if for most people it's a fairy tale. You're not writing accurately.
Yeah, and I remember having this discussion with in a book club where we were reading like a black historical romance, and I'm like, well, in black historical romance, the authors have to do like a whole works cited page showing that they actually looked up things before they wrote this book, because they get asked, well, they get told this wasn't historically accurate,
Right.
because people can't even imagine black people being loved on
Right.
in the past. Like, no, black love didn't exist from 1965,
Right.
and then I guess fizzled out in the 2000s.
Right. Because it don't exist now either. Y'all miss me.
And then I come across people who clearly seem to think black love was just always this thing we were able to show everywhere, and now it's like interracial romance time. I'm like, no, we didn't even
No.
really get to start showing black love in media like that until like the 80s.
Right.
We weren't really
Right.
getting
When we
black
saw it
romance like that
before,
till the
it was over sexualized and it was
yes.
not, it was for the white gaze. It was
Yeah.
never for us. It was never intended for us. Like, again, there is so much that I think she did a fantastic job with this book. I'm not kidding y'all. I think it's top Raybear for my favorite YA fantasy. Now, if it's fantasy is Raybear because this is contemporary still, but like I y'all. I saw the comment earlier. Does she have another book that she written? I know you said she writes for TV because again, y'all, she
Yeah.
write for you, and we can obviously tell she's a
Yeah.
bomb writer.
She does have another book. I have not read that one. I know it is very different from this book because it was dealing with like the whole police brutality thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's definitely
Um
set like future time, like our time, present time, I guess.
yeah, and it's more along the line of what was being released at that time.
So like the hate you give type stuff. Is that what
Yeah.
you thinking? Got you, got you, got you. Which I
I
ain't
think
read
it's
and I'm not gonna
called
read. I'll read hers. I
um
would give her another read.
The Truth of Right Now is what it's called.
Even that title, The Truth of Right. Okay. Did that one got an audio? Probably not, because if she did this
Um
first one, I'm pretty sure y'all was we can't be happy about this. We can't pat ourselves on the back for giving her, yeah, sure
that one
can't.
I know is a little bit different because I think that one follows like a black character and a white character, so it's very different from this one.
Okay.
But I've not read that one.
Okay.
I don't really
I'm
like to
curious.
read those types of stories.
Right, right. Me either. But I definitely would give it a try for her.
Mm.
I definitely would give it a try because I really love this book. But again, like it's like slave movies. So I just add it in there.
Because
And
those
I think
types of books
especially
I
for me,
feel
because
like
like
we Yeah, no, those types of books, I feel like in those they do go in like holding people's hands and explaining stuff
right,
that does not need to be explained. And I'm just like, we don't need to explain our humanity
right.
and the reason why we exist to white
That
people at
part,
all. And
that part.
I'm not used to those types of stories because that's not what was on the shelf when I was a teen.
Right, at all. Not at
I don't
all.
remember reading any books about police brutality as a teen when I did read books with black boys.
Right. But even that in the conversation is it was a different time, right?
Yeah,
Because again, when we're kids, there are no phones. So we're
yeah,
not reading about there aren't videos. It's not always in our face. Yes, black kids were
yeah,
dying at the hands of cops, but it wasn't something you saw. It
yeah.
was something you heard. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? It's a
it wasn't
completely
really
different
something
thing.
that we saw. More
Right.
along I think along the time when we were teens, they were kinda too, like, pushing, like, to go off and do better. So I remember, like, some
Right.
stories, like, being able to get out of your neighborhood and make something
Right.
bigger of yourself
Going to
and stuff like that.
college,
Yeah,
like go there were so
there were
many
a lot of
going
stories about
graduating
going to
high school and going to
college.
college. A
Yeah, there were,
lot.
like I remember some books and movies about, like, going like, where they had black male characters going off to college and
We had
experiencing college life.
so many high school senior movies for black kids. Coach Carter jumps off the head at the top of
Yeah,
my head at first. You know what I mean? Like there were so many that came out during our childhood, comparatively speaking to now, right? So I totally agree with you there. And I think that again, we know that society likes to push different narratives and things that they
mhm,
want to be the norm and whatnot, right? Because again, people be like, we didn't have black shows before. Yes, we did.
yeah,
Yes, we
they were
did.
very different.
With majority black cast.
Well, I also had like I remember recently talking to somebody like so there was a Teen Mom book that came out recently, like based off of MTV's Teen Mom
Mm-hmm.
with a black protagonist, and we're like, but why though? Because black people were never really on that show. And the author
Right.
was said in like an interview, she's like, well, I felt like when I was watching it how this show didn't have any representation, and I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Because we didn't need representation on that show.
Why?
We
Why did
already
you
had at
want
the
to?
time a bad stereotype against us of
Right.
constantly getting pregnant. Like that was
That
a
we
thing that we were
still
getting hit
have
with
that we
all the
the crazy
time.
part is we literally still have that stereotype
But the
and
teen
there is
pregnancy rate
scientific
is way
evidence
down.
that is and nobody's having kids.
Yeah, the teen
Like
pregnancies went way down at the time. Like the height of teen mom, teen pregnancy was like all over the place. It's actively a lot down from where it was, and we didn't need that representation. We were getting
we
hit
didn't
with
need
those
that at
stereotypes.
all.
People didn't expect you to go to school. That's part of the reason why they needed to give us those school narratives.
Right. Right. It's so much so different. So different. And our shows were black, not blackish. I said it.
So like it just brings into like mind like the things. What do we want to tell teens too in books
Right.
now? What
Right.
messages do we want to send to black kids?
Right. And to me, it's not we can't we all just get along?
No.
No, it's not being pacifist. as not
Like
keeping like
I will take those books of us being inspiring singers and rappers again before I take some of these current ones. Because at least we were
girl,
actively going for our dreams.
girl, girl. I just I remember being like I can't wait to have kids and like nah, not no more. Not no more. Like truly the way I feel like it would be so much more work to raise a child in a pro black home now than ever before.
You got to do a lot of vetting.
You got to do a lot of vetting. There's a lot of things you have to cut off access to. Like,
Like my auntie, she tells her granddaughter every day that she's black and to be proud of it. And I think she went a little overboard because now she tried to kick her mom out the family. She done told her, "You're white. You can't relate to the rest of us." And she's like, "I'm not even white though."
she's like, but you can't relate. That part is still
Yeah.
true. No, like for real though. Like I remember we were having a conversation about black shows. I feel like it was like When Black Women Speak. And
Hmm.
like even in the chat, people were like, we did
Yeah.
because black writers, producers, directors cared
Yeah. I
about those
remember.
things.
Yeah, like I remember as a kid, Gullah Gullah Island was like the first show I ever saw a family similar to mine, and not even like the same because my family is from the Caribbean, their family is from the Gullah Islands, but there's a lot of similarities in the culture and
Between the
just the way that
cultures,
they
right,
talk.
right.
So that was like the
Come
first
put
time I
your
saw
foot in
people
your
who
hand.
looked like my family.
Man, yo, the nostalgia I got when I found that family on Instagram and started following all of them was like, oh, y'all did so much to my childhood. And again, so I'm not Caribbean by any nature or anything
Yeah.
like that. My grandmother was just super, super pro black and super into knowing as much and everything she could about Africa. So for me, it was even affirming in that because, like, again, people thought that's where I was from because of the way my grandma had us dressed and the things she had us doing. Like,
Hmm.
most of our animals were named what they were called in Swahili so that we knew the language, right? In some form. And just the intentionality that she had, and I know how hard it was for her to be intentional, and just to imagine wanting to raise children, even like half as pro black as she raised, like it would be hard.
Definitely hard. And like Hege said too, it's hard to find stories for black boys now. That's like a whole other issue.
That's why I was so
I'm running into
glad
that.
when we did. I was so glad when we did
Yeah.
the one this past summer
Yeah.
because
Arcade.
again, RJ, because like the truth is there are a lot of people that got a problem with black boys, black women included.
Yeah, there's not enough rep for them. And so I try to give books to all the kids in my family. And my cousin's son, it's taken me more effort to find books with black
Right,
boys because even the black men are writing, in publishing, are writing books about black girls
right,
because people don't want to read about black boys.
right. And can we talk about the fact that it's because y'all don't want to humanize them? Like there is a very, very big push in every form of media to keep you from seeing the humanity in black boys and black men. And it disgusts me, to be
Like I was
truthfully
complaining
honest.
about it, I'm like, why am I reading books that are supposed to be historical and we can't even get a black love interest there during a time period when we would have been
Where
mostly
they
dating each
when
other?
exactly. Exactly. What I to me, I can't fathom what you must think as a black boy to see nothing that looks like you. Like
And
for it
that
to be so far and few in between, and for most people to not see a problem with it.
Yeah, and that's
Most
another
people don't
like
see
one
the
thing I
need
loved
you
about
want
this
it.
book. We got to see a good black man, like young man
Right,
in a story, and he was compassionate. He was able to express his real feelings.
Right.
He didn't have to kind of like dull his personality for Black readers, because I find that too sometimes very weird. Like, I'll be reading a book and it is like a Black romance, but the Black boys always have to be very sensitive. They can't be too good at what they're supposed to be good at. Like, they kind of have to dull themselves down and not seem
Oh
too
no,
intimidating or aggressive.
that part. You know, one of my favorite quotes is there's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. And the fact that there are so many Black writers who are willing to do just that to get a story out.
Because I'm like, nothing's wrong with therapy, but why does in every book like the Black boy has to be doing like therapy his whole life
Right.
and be overly like super like in touch with his feelings all the time
Right.
and ready to talk it out and ready to cry all the time, and then the girl's just off doing whatever.
I loved his protection of her. I love that she like spoke out about what made her uncomfortable or what made her feel away. But I love that that didn't change how he was going to be there to protect her. Because the truth of the matter is, he is still a man. He loved her. Loving her was protecting her. And even knowing she was more powerful than him,
Yeah.
it didn't stop him from wanting to protect her. And there is something to be said about that. This man is lying on the ground, can barely speak, getting the life beat out of him. And he tells you to go run. He tells you to get away, knowing what you're capable of. And we want to demonize that? Cause I don't know what I ain't read the two Legendborn books, but what white boy was getting his ass beat for Bree? Was it happening? Did I see it? Did
Nope,
y'all see
it
it?
wasn't
Oh,
in
okay, I
there.
didn't think so.
I
Oh,
read both.
okay.
It wasn't in there.
Oh, okay, got you.
And the Black boy rep we got in there was not it.
All right. Y'all. She needs it. She needs to teach a master class. I will say though, this is not at all how I pictured the girl in the book.
Yeah, you know how they be doing with these Black
The
covers.
covers, I did not picture. Like, it's a cute cover.
Yeah.
I'm not. There's nothing wrong with it. I did not picture the girl. She did not look like that in the story.
No, like you know how they do with these Black covers. But the thing
Right.
is, this is at least like a photograph. They be doing this with the Black covers when they're illustrated still.
Like, you had the ability to
Like, you
draw
see, I
exactly
have
what you
very
described.
curly hair, and even I'm sick of people with my hair type in some of these books.
Right. Or that you only know how to say curly. Like,
Yeah,
there's
and
another way to
my
decide.
hair isn't like down here,
Right.
and
First of
all these
all,
girls, their hair is down here,
right.
and mine grows up and
There are
out.
specific types of hair that grow down and specific types of hair that grow up. And some of y'all be trying to put those types with the wrong description because
Yeah.
why? Because 4C hair is a great topic, but you can't describe it properly? Okay. It's the way white people be using hashtag 4C hair on their TikTok videos so they can get seen because they know.
4C will get you seen.
Right. I really want our current Black writers, specifically for YA. I think that for the most part, I think our adult writers are doing pretty well. There are definitely some that can
Yeah.
step their game up for sure.
There's
But
some people
YA,
who just need to go lean into the whatever side they're leaning into, because like if I see another reach across the aisle type of book,
bruh,
but at least they're calling it reach across the aisle, so I can actively
that
avoid
part,
it.
because right, because the other
Like
part is
I'm
y'all. I
going into the
swear,
book
y'all
and
love
knowing what it's about
Martin.
to be.
Y'all love Martin, but y'all love ignoring what he said. I fear that I am integrating my people into a burning house. Y'all are missing where this man said the way I was going obviously ain't gonna work with y'all. You can't speak civilized words to an uncivilized group of people. And the truth of the fucking matter is, the most uncivilized civilized people to walk this planet don't look like us. If I had a mic, I'd drop it because that was the end of that.
Yeah, we really just need to end here.
Right. For real, for real. The cover is beautiful, but that's
Yeah.
so not the vibe at all. This is not the vibes of the book ever. I loved it. It was a great book.
Yeah.
Thank you, Vina. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And low key, she knew what she was doing because she made it a read along. Because had it been a buddy read,
Yeah.
tonight probably wouldn't have
No.
happened. So y'all,
I said I came with the mission. I said I want
she was
more
like,
people
I
on
want to
BookTube
do
to
a
read this
read.
book. So I said, in order to do that, I got to make it a read along and get a co-host, and I'm gonna have to do some sprints, even though y'all know I don't like to do sprints.
Hey, let's get y'all. I appreciate all y'all that read this with us because
Yes.
I'm glad we could talk about it.
Yes, there were so
Cause
many
right,
people who couldn't be here tonight too, who were like consistently reading along,
right.
having discussions later.
So thankful for y'all. I appreciate everybody that went and bought
Yeah.
this book, everybody that checked it out. She deserves all the sales
Yes.
and more
Go
for
leave a
this.
review on the Goodreads, the Storygraph,
Oh yeah,
whatever you're
nah.
using.
I'm Amazon
Amazon,
everywhere.
definitely
I'm
put your
definitely
Amazon
Amazon.
review up.
Girl, I know.
If
I'm
you're
reading
doing
it
an
in April.
Instagram post,
I'm reading it.
tag
Simon
Simon Tina as well.
Simon T. Okay, I definitely
Yes,
will because I shot.
let them know
I'm
we're
gonna do
reading
a
this book.
video. Yo, yo. I'll do a quick. What's a hill you'll die on? Or no, what's something that you think as a black person you think every white person should know that they should read this book, and it's gonna make you uncomfortable, but you need to read it anyway. Cause I won't lie, every time the N word was there and it wasn't even used in like the N word, it was used as like a descriptor. My body tensed up every single time. Every single time. And every time I
Meanwhile,
understood the
folks are
reason
running
for
away
it.
from the word Negro,
Right.
and there are folks who look like us, and I'm just like, I don't know who raised y'all.
Man, I stopped asking at this point. I really did, because I don't even want to know. All I can tell you is whoever it was, they failed you. I'm sorry for you. Truly, truly sorry.
Another day, we'll have a discussion about how white people will take our words that we're using and make them derogatory to the point where we stop using them.
Bruh, the way, y'all, this white boy
Because
told
why
me
y'all
I
think we use
wasn't woke
AAVE?
for liking Young Thug. The way I was like,
They trying to do it with woke right now. They did it with Ebonics.
they definitely did it with woke. Woke definitely they own. They done took that
They
one.
took
They
woke.
like that.
They took
Every time
Ebonics.
you say woke, you think like that's not even what it means, bruh.
They tried to weaponize. They weaponized urban against us for a while to the point where some black people stay away from it, and then now they be using it like all the time. They be like, my urban
Urban is
cafe,
supposed to
my
be
urban fiction.
contemporary now,
Yeah,
right? It's contemporary. It just means
like
It just means city now. Oh, is that what it means? Because when I was a
like
kid, it's how you described us.
once we started using it, they were like, nope, it has to go away.
I'm right there with you, Ulysses, every single time. Like one of the things I hate about watching movies is, and to me, I don't care. It's egregious. They do it every fucking time, and you have the ability to take it out and change it. Every time they say what we say, and they put the ER there on the screen when I'm reading subtitles, you know that's not that word. Black people have made a very conscious effort to show you there is a difference between the two words, and you still like it's for a reason. It's not by accident.
Exactly.
Just like I tweeted about this, there's a reason why people can get on social media and harass black people. It's because it's profitable. Anti-blackness makes you money because it is nothing but a line of code to remove a word. You know how I know? Every time somebody said vaccine or COVID, you put a little banner on whatever it was that they put in a caption on a video or anything. So you have the ability to stop black people from being harassed. And
That's
y'all
why I
don't.
don't be on the clock app, because it's profitable to get on there and just say
It is
reckless stuff,
it is profitable. It is profitable.
especially during Black History Month.
Man. Man.
Which I wish people would have picked this up as one of their reads, because some of the other
Man,
stuff that were,
had I man, and our group reads were great
yeah,
for Missy Elliott reads. I didn't have an issue with any of our group reads. Next year though, yeah, y'all gonna read this next year too. It's on there. I'm telling you now. I'm already announcing February 2024. One of our 2 group reads is gonna be Daughters of Jubilation. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. You're not gonna participate, and I have to have looked at this. Not say you ain't heard it. You can't be. I ain't never heard of that book.
yeah.
Okay. I'm fixing that.
Eventually we'll get Brit to read it too.
All right, nah,
Yeah,
man, because that I now
yeah,
having an audio book is hurting
yeah,
her. Is hurting her. But it is so good. It is so good. It's so good.
we're
And
just gonna have to
honestly,
keep
I
talking
think
about it till and
right. I
promoting it
think
till they get the audiobook.
right. Cause and I honestly I think her reading it would
Yeah.
I bet it would set off bells for her fantasy
Mhm.
so fast. Some way she wants to because it's got me. I don't even like
Yeah.
writing YA. Y'all know I don't like to write about no damn kids. I don't like it. I don't want to put myself in the head of a teenager. I was in it for a little while. I don't want it no more. I read it. I don't want to write it. And here I was like, I see what you did here. I see why this was important. I see why you made this choice. And while I am not there yet, you made me wish I was. You made me wish I was. Cause girl, you told this story. You told this story. Yay, Alicia. Yes. No, it is good. Oh, Vina is
Yeah.
good. It's good.
Yeah, it's just one of those that really has stuck with me. And I'm just surprised other people who have read this, because I know
Hey,
like
chill
there's
out.
been some other people on BookTube who have read it, and I'm like, it didn't stick with y'all. Like this book.
Hold on. Hold on. Titan getting mad at somebody.
Like it
Y'all.
has some nice horror elements in there too. Go suggest it. Might have to go suggest it for Black Aweenathon too.
Yo, y'all, man, it does have some good little horror. I was like, I remember when y'all were like, I can't read it at night, and I was like, I ain't got there yet. Ain't nothing got to. And I was like, oh, I see why you can't read this. It might be a little bit much. I see. I definitely could
Yeah.
see where it'd be a good movie. Boy, you know you're not supposed to be on my bed. Get down.
Especially when
I
you're
would,
trying to figure out who that man is.
y'all. The way he like, I know you live. I know I can get away with something right now. I'm gonna sit up. Boy, you better go. Yo, why ain't nobody want to turn this into a show? Oh, because people be upset. Because you don't have a white person you can pat on the shoulder at the end? Is that why? Because the truth is that was not most of like here's the truth. Here is the absolute truth of American history. Most white people could not be bothered to care.
We know.
Even if you weren't actively participating in protests, which we know majority of y'all were, it was not 20, 30 people outside of them schools protesting people integrating. I ain't never seen a small crowd. I ain't never seen a small crowd at them pictures of lynchings. They all look like they are big, huge fucking events. And the ones who weren't there couldn't be bothered to put themselves in front of the black people that deserved it. Is the truth. It's hard. It's not pretty. It's reality. Like Freedom Riders, it wasn't like we had 30 black people, 30 white people. No, it was like 30 black people, 5 white people. It was not easy to stand up against that. Because you weren't just standing up against a few rednecks, you're standing up against everybody. Because it's the way of life. Like, that's what I
Yeah.
don't think
She
people are
even talked about it
understanding.
with RJ said he wanted to join that one activist group, and he's like, "I'm pro-black, and I can't even imagine doing that."
Right. Because it's not easy.
She's
It's
like,
not.
"People go away and never come home who are part of
Never
that group."
come home. Never come home.
Like, she's like, "I didn't realize he was so brave for even wanting to join that."
Right. Right. We got out in droves in 2020 and protested and still had issues.
So
Can
I
you
stayed inside
imagine?
because I knew them people was out here protesting so they could be outside.
Right. Right. Can you imagine?
Some people was just out there bored, had nothing to do. Once
Right.
stores started opening back up, they were done.
Like, their protest and our protest, not even close to the same thing. The way in which they would not patronize businesses, we can't even get y'all to not watch a Netflix show, let
Yeah.
alone
We
not
can't even get
patronize a
people
business.
to not read racist books written by us. Like people like they'll tell them like they were pushing a racist romance agenda and everybody's like, "Oh, I got to read it to see for myself." Why do you have to read it to
Nah,
see that the main character is dating
y'all,
a Republican?
I'm never gonna read the Legendborn series ever,
I will never read that
ever.
book. Everything is fine that people keep trying to read and act like
I don't
it's
even.
doing something special.
I ain't even heard of it, and I know. First of all, y'all know me, and
It
I
it has
was.
a Trump supporter love interest opposite a black woman.
Is the black woman Candace?
No, it is
Is
not.
that her?
Not a
Oh,
Candace
okay.
Owens type. That's the worst
Oh,
part.
okay.
She's
Oh, okay.
conflicted about this man who shares no beliefs with her, but she loves him anyway. And
How do you get to loving someone that you share no beliefs
those
with?
people literally don't care about your life. So I'm
Right,
confused.
like
White people
I'm
had
just
to
trying
go
to
read
understand
that,
how do you get there?
and I'm
Like
so
if we
confused as to
don't
why people
agree
had to
on
go read
any
it
of
to
the
see.
fundamental things, I just don't even.
And then they were trying to push it as satire. I'm like, what's satirical about this?
The way me and Britt have already been like, okay, so we want to make a list of satirical books, blah blah, and because
Uh,
again, we think satire is just the word that white people like to use for books that we make that
offend
scare
people.
them. Right,
Like,
right.
because I read another book that was supposedly a satire, and it was like the most racist book, like about immigration. This was written by a white woman, and they were calling it satire, and I'm like, what is satirical about this?
Man, I love the spook who sat by the door, and that's considered satire. And I was like, no, that scared y'all. That's what that did. That scared the life out of y'all. That scared the life out of y'all. You made this required reading for all FBI agents. That's how scared this book made y'all. It is literally the fuel that starts the fire of why y'all go so hard on the Black Panthers. This book had y'all that frightened. It's another book I think all Black people should read. It'll probably be next year's other group read. No lie, if I'm being honest with y'all, because again, I
You
I
just need
don't
to do a
like.
video of
I
books
don't.
that
Right,
all white people
right.
should read.
Because the other thing that bothers me, and this is something that I'm realizing, is it is so hard nowadays to even talk about Black male authors. Most people I know are not talking about them. It's almost always Black female authors.
Yeah, I'm trying to make like a conscious effort
Exactly. Me
to
too.
read more, but the problem also is that they only want to get certain books from black male authors when they let them
Right.
into the
Exactly.
writing space.
That's
Like,
why I jump off the top of the mountain for Long Division. Because he
yep.
did that with that book. Another unapologetically Black book that's
Yeah,
not explaining
Long Division
nothing
was not holding your hand at all. There were some
at
points
all.
in the audiobook I said, "Let me rewind." Rewind.
Let me rewind that real quick because I think I missed it. Wait a minute. How did that? Man. The voice on both of those books, like what I will say on books that I have found that are unapologetically Black, the voice is
Yes.
so authentic.
I pay attention to character voice, and not everybody has a distinct character
At
voice in their
all.
books. I'm trying to learn. So reading books like this help because I see a clear character voice.
Right. I recommend both, honestly. The audiobook, that man, Sean Krisden, did a
Yeah,
fantastic
the
job.
audiobook was very good. I got so much of it read in one day because I was reading it like right before my vacation last year, and I came back and I finished it.
The audiobook, like he does a really good job. And it's crazy because I usually do not like him as a romance narrator because he's one of the more common male romance voices. But when he read this, man. And Alicia, the thing is the physical book is a little tricky because it's two books in
Yeah.
one. So like if you
Yeah.
flip and read it from, like, you have to read it backwards and forwards to read the whole story. So sometimes it's a
Yeah,
little,
the book I had, the version of the physical version I had was like the first release, so it did not have that art. So I
oh,
actually
got
want
you,
to go
got you.
back and
Okay.
look at it physically sometime later because
Mm-hmm.
my sister had read long division in school, like for one of her English classes. This was closer to when it was originally released. So
Mm-hmm.
she was the one who told me about it. She saved the book because she's like, this is a really good book with a
Mm-hmm.
good character voice. It's worth reading.
I'm curious about
That
the
and
difference
she
between it.
saved that and she saved a Bell Hooks book for me. All
Okay.
about
Because
I think all about love.
I follow Kiese
Or
Layman, and he has
mm,
definitely talked about like the work that, like, he was like, I remember when it was re-released, and he was like, I am thankful for the people who saw the future of this book. And I haven't read the first one or the
mm,
physical first one, but it definitely makes me think about what we were saying about people not putting the effort into Black books. Like, yeah,
yeah.
you published this book, but did you do a good job? Because he
Yeah, because it
re-released
was
it,
a
and it wasn't
very
even 10 years ago. It wasn't even 10 years
yeah,
that
it
it
was
came out that it was re-released.
I think a smaller publisher had released it the
Mm-hmm.
first time,
Mm-hmm.
I think. And
But
we all know, like, sometimes, especially in 2020, they were doing, when we're seeing how that's playing out now, a lot of authors are scrambling, like, a lot of publishing houses are scrambling to show we like diversity. Let's
right.
go pick up the first Black book in our inbox and
Yeah,
then
my
not
DC
put any
is
effort into it
right.
because Black authors are supposed to come with their book already finished and ready to hit print. So I'm confused then as to why they still have to wait 2 years, but that's a whole
That part is super weird. That part is super weird. But yeah, no, I could really gush about this book for
yeah.
forever, but it's amazing.
Yeah.
I am so thankful you recommended it. Thank you so much for blessing me with this copy. I appreciate it so much. Again, I'm thankful for everybody who read it with us and the
Yes.
conversations we've been able to have because of it.
Yes, thank you to everybody who's read it. Like I said, just keep shouting out about it. Do you have any announcements you want to make, Shay? Anything coming up on your channel?
Y'all, it's about to be April, which is Camp Nano, which means I'm supposed to have a project. That's all I got for y'all. Will I have one? Will I be? I have hopes and dreams and things I'm planning, but the truth is, let me not tell y'all and not do them and feel bad. Just follow me. That's all I got. Follow me and you'll see me announcing stuff. But I have a very good feeling that this second quarter will be much better than the first one. So I am hoping that I'll be able to do the things that I have in mind for sure.
Well, April is going to be a lighter month for me because I will be on vacay for about 2 weeks.
Ah,
So
now because you're going to family, right? And
yeah,
what you call, yeah,
in Guyana. So
yeah. Guyana. Okay, I didn't want to say it in case you
yeah,
didn't want people to know. I was like, I'll let
no,
her say it. That was it.
I I am just throwing up a bunch of light videos for the first part of the month. You may get a vlog. I don't know. People are saying they want to see what's going on. So
I
I'm
do.
gonna
I
try to
have a
take some
friend. His
videos.
his dad is from there, and so like we talked to. He hasn't been back since he was a kid. And I was like, yo, if she does a vlog, I'm definitely send it his way. So he'd be
Yeah,
like, yo, I remember this. I remember that. Like, so yeah.
I'll have my phone, so I'll try and get some video footage.
Yay!
So thanks so much for watching, guys. Bye.
Hey, bye.